it doesn't take much to create the liability.
Right.
As it rolls in, you're accumulating hundreds or maybe thousands of dollars at 200 to 1. Next thing you know, you have a mid-six-figure liability attached to Trubisky, and that's the last thing I want to do is lose six figures on the NFL MVP. Well, big news. He's not going to lose six figures on the NFL MVP. Like, that's not the way they're setting this whole thing up in the first place. But it's great pub.
Yep.
It's great pub. Good job for Superbook. Good job by Jay Kornegay as they're trying to expand the brand nationally.
Yeah, so Mitch Trubisky, 200 to 1, now down to, I think it's 75. Is that where it is now?
I believe it's 50 some places, 75 others.
Yeah. Because Caesars had 75. Their folks said, hey, some liability, a lot of action on Trubisky. Now it's down to 30. But you know what? Dare to dream. Let the players come in town. This is what we're here for. Make money off them if they want to just piss away money on a lottery ticket. And every once in a while, like the Blues, the lottery ticket comes through. And that's why, by the way, on the flip side of this, because we like working with sports books in town, but I'm not here to be the freaking, fluffer for the sports books. We can also say it from the other side that when you heard all of the complaining about the Blues bet being won, they're going to win it back. Now, their bosses don't want to hear that month, and that's the sucky part about booking now without, Crooked Nose Tony working upstairs. It's now corporate. So you have to answer every week, every 2 weeks, every month, every quarter as to why you lost money. And I'm guessing the simple answer of, relax, we're going to win it back, is not acceptable. But they're going to win it back.
Of course they're going to win it back. Why did no one freak out when the Super Bowl didn't do that well in New Jersey this year? Because they're going to win it back.
That story, they did not care. We've explained the DraftKings story. It was DraftKings, right? Or was it FanDuel that offered didn't they have a money line for either side? If you signed up for an account, what was it, 6-1? Whoever won, you got money line 6-1?
And yes, to answer your question, and the point for them is that it's all about customer acquisition, right? That's all they wanted. But when you talk about it in Nevada, when you talk about what's going on here, talk about the Blues bet, right? Let's just make up a number. I'm going to make a number off the top of my head. Let's say you lost $50,000 on a Blues future. Let's say that's the cost of getting that publicity. $50,000, first of all, is nothing in the grand scheme of it. Second of all, you can't pay for that PR.
Yep.
You can't pay for Darren Rovell getting on a private plane and flying around with the guy who won the bet and doing a huge story on it, and it's showing up on the ESPN bottom line. That costs a lot more than $50,000.
Brilliant point. Brilliant point. And something we rarely talk about, the value of losing one of these future bets. Now, again, maybe the bosses don't want to hear that, and there's really no way to quantify it, but I'm sure you could ask a marketing firm like, hey, add up all the publicity we got from this.
Look at Derek Stevens a couple of years ago with the ticket he had riding on
on Michigan, right?
On the NCAA.
Yep.
On the ticket he had riding. Derek Stevens gets plenty of publicity, but he couldn't pay for everything he got out of that. He got national publicity out of that while he was trying to make a name for himself in downtown Las Vegas. It was brilliant.
Now, we'll get Jay on to address this, or one of the guys from the Westgate. I thought this was interesting, and I don't want to take it the wrong way. Says here, Kornegay added that he tried to set a manageable enough line to account for large and dedicated sports markets such as Chicago. He says, but hindsight shows that it was probably a little too high based on the money we've seen over the last couple of weeks. When I read stuff like that, it actually gets me thinking, again, I'm not the one having to answer to the corporate bosses, but it is cool if you actually offer true lines. Right? Like, I understand you got pounded on the Trubisky bet, but give me true odds more often than not, and I'm going to be happy.
Think about how that quote fits into where we are in 2019. Because the biggest challenge right now for the legal market, the growing legal market, 9 states now have some form of legal sports betting active. The challenge for the legal market is to bring everybody who's been offshore and in the black market home. And the only way you can do that is to offer competitive odds. Or, as you just said, true odds. And a bet like NFL MVP, it's not exotic, but it's as exotic as you generally get at a Vegas sports book. It is far from the most exotic thing you can find offshore. So when you find an interesting lottery ticket bet like this, that comes in maybe at a number a little higher than what you might think is, I don't know, safe for you to offer. Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you do that with a market like Chicago to make a name for yourself? So bang the PR drum enough here, but also to say, yeah, you might get some value here. And getting value, especially from people who might not otherwise place that wager, right? Because when we start talking about props and we start talking about things like MVP bets, this isn't where the sharps are living. This is trying to get new money and square money into the book. And it seems like it worked like a charm.